All right, we are back here on the Just End the Suffering podcast on a football Sunday, recapping the Giants situation here. Joining me today, a Giants fan himself, one of these Sky guys. We're going to talk some Book of Boba Fett later this week, but Nick Fraietta is here. And now, Nick, how are you?
Horrible. This is a joke at this point, and I don't care about today's game at all. We'll get into everything. I really don't care about the game at all. I prefer they lose with the draft pick at this point, but and I'm not surprised they lost. Not surprised they got crushed. But this is reached a point where this is literally unbelievable and with the laughing stock of the league.
Yeah, and to reset here, I mean, we're recording on Sunday night of Week 16. The Giants lost to the Eagles today, 34-10. The Jet game was on the same time. I was watching that game, and I was a lot more entertained than you were, I'm sure. But you give me the summary here, the quick 2-minute version of what happened in that game.
Here's the summary, and it's clear as day. And anyone who was watching the game could tell. The Giants played a decent first half, especially defensively. They looked okay, and the Eagles weren't struggling to move the ball. You go into halftime, you know for a fact the Eagles are making halftime adjustments, and what's happening in the Giant locker room? Nothing, because their coach knows nothing about football. The Eagles come out in the second half and destroyed them, went on a 31-0 run, and the last time the Giants got a garbage time touchdown to make it 34-10 at the end. They do nothing. I'm convinced in that locker room, Joe Judge is just saying, hit harder or move faster. He has no clue what he's talking about. He knows nothing about football. This is what people's fear was when he started as a coach last year, but at least they liked the fire. Now it's shown he knows nothing about football and just yells at people. This is a joke.
Oh, it is a joke. And I mean, you watch the games you watch. I mean, they're not even entertaining games. Like, they're boring as all hell.
Yeah, they have their defense is bad. It's not horrible, but it's bad.
It's not
their offense. No, their offense is the worst in the league. There's no doubt about it. They can't move the ball at all. They have this running back who's supposed to be the best in the league. Mike, let me ask you a question. Do you think Saquon Barkley is the worst starting running back in the NFC East? Because I do. I don't even think it's close.
I think right now he is.
Yeah, I don't even think it's close. You pick this guy second overall. He's the worst in your division. You go through the last time. We don't have time to go through all 32 running backs or whatever it is. I know some teams have two. He's not even in the top half anymore. He's one of the worst running backs. One of the, not worst, as in like top three, whatever. He's in the bottom half of running backs in the league. Took him second overall.
Yeah, Saquon.
He has no help. He has no line. Their weapons that they signed are a joke. What's his name? Lane Johnson has more touchdowns than Kenny Galladay this year. This is literally reached rock bottom, and that's not the worst of it. The worst of it has nothing to do with how bad they are now.
Yeah, I'll also throw in here, Connor McDermott also has more touchdowns than Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's unreal. He has done absolutely nothing, and it's not all his fault. They have no quarterback, they have no line, they have no other weapons, they have no running game. Their defense is below average to bad. It's not the worst in the league, but they have it's a bad defense. They do have a fantastic kicker. You can't take anything away from him. He's been unbelievable this year. And he gets a lot more opportunities than he should, considering who the coach is.
Yeah, and I'll add some other things in here. Notice here, Saquon Barkley today, 15 carries or 32 yards, an average of 2.1 a carry. And the quarterback duo is dreadful today. I think Jake Fromm started. He got benched 6 of 17 for 25 yards. Seems impossible.
And it does. Yeah, it really seems.
That's really hard.
Yeah, you see a lot of times where sometimes a team will do like a couple of reverse passes with the receiver, and they get more yards in one play than Fromm got in 17 attempts. He was sacked twice, so 19 dropbacks.
Yeah, he threw a pick.
He dropped back to pass 19 times and he only had 25 yards. He averaged 1.5 yard per attempt.
Yeah, that's not good.
Pathetic. And Glennon wasn't even really much better. A little better, sure, but
yeah, we'll throw all that in there here. And to make matters worse, there was the big breaking news of the morning, which came out well before the Giant game played. Report from ESPN's Adam Schefter that Joe Judge is coming back next year. We could throw a parade. John Mara has found the next Bill Belichick. He and his record right now of, how is he now? He's 10-21 in 2 years as the Giant head coach. He is coming back next year.
Yeah, see, this is where I completely lost it this morning, because besides the fact that I mentioned earlier, he knows nothing about football, which we all know. That's not even the biggest problem. The biggest problem is you're letting Gettleman step down. You're not firing him, which is another joke. You also said you're bringing Jones back, which is the least of the jokes, I think, but still a joke because I really doubt they'd be able to find a quarterback between now and next year. I still think, he's not good and he's not the future of the franchise, but I think it's more important to find other spots right now. And, you're not a quarterback away. Let's say they got Russell Wilson. They're still going to win 6 games next year. And you can see what Wilson does in Seattle now, no help around him. So I'm not furious about the Jones comeback thing. I think it's just another year before they find the quarterback. But you're letting Gettleman step down. You've already said, which is another joke, that they're going to replace Gettleman with Abrams, who's his assistant, which means more of the same.
Most likely. We haven't confirmed that yet.
Yeah. But now you're confirming it because you're telling me the Judge is coming back and Jones is coming back. So you're telling us the GM either has to do exactly what I say or has to be a part of this organization already because they're already making the decisions that he's going to make. So this is back to square one. You're literally, your whole rebuild is completely ruined. This is another 3 to 4 years of being terrible.
Yeah, and we'll touch on these things one at a time here. With the Joe Judge thing, the thing that frustrates me most is that if I were a Giants fan is like the fact that he's like so arrogant with the media about how like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm seeing progress off the field. And then he's being extremely conservative in games where like today in the game, he's punting like in situations where he should be going for it. And then he's calling timeouts down 24 points the second half to try and like basically cut the margin down, make his loss look better. I mean, what are we doing here?
It's a joke. It's a complete joke, and it all stems from John Mara, I think. I mean, we know it has to do with John Mara, but I don't know if Steve Tisch is involved also. A lot of people seem to forget that they both own the team. It's not all Mara. I don't know. From what I've heard, though, last year Tisch was a big, get rid of Gettleman guy, and Mara was the one who wanted to bring him back. So that's all I really have to go off of. So I'm going to give Tisch the pass for now. But it all stems from Mara. It's the Giant way. Is we don't lose a game by getting crushed. We'll fight till there's 1 second left or 0 seconds left on that clock. And it's a joke. They would rather not score touchdowns, but everyone give each other high fives than win games. You saw what Stephon Diggs did today when he's yelling at the Patriots crowd. That would never fly for the Giants. That would never fly. The Giants would rather not score touchdowns and lose. It's absurd. It's a complete joke. The Giant way passed many years ago. They had some great runs like they did when, at this point now it's 15 years ago and 10 years ago, or 14 years ago and 10 years ago, which was, still great. But since then, they've been a joke, a complete joke. They won't change their ways. They're stuck in their ways of thinking it's going to turn around, and it's not. And they still don't realize it. I thought this was the year they'd realize it because you said on this very show that the Giants would have under, I believe it was 7 or 7.5. What was it? It
was under 7. I said they are not going over that total.
Yeah, and you were right, and I agreed with at the time I agreed with you, and you ended up being right. I didn't say this on the show or anything. I agreed with you. I thought they'd be under, and I thought this would be the year where everyone says, okay, we suck. Let's completely start over. And I was half right because all the fans now agree. There were a lot of fans in the last couple of years who were, no, I think we're okay. There's a lot of injuries. We still have. Now everyone knows they suck. We are horrible. I am not convinced we could beat anybody in the league. I really don't think we could beat anybody in the league.
Yeah. In comparison here, I mean, you look across town, the Jets stink, but at least you're seeing some signs of progress here. I mean, Zach Wilson.
Yeah, and they try.
Yeah, there's exciting young players on this team because, I mean, you got guys like Michael Carter having big runs today. Elijah Moore was healthy, was dominating. Elijah Vera talking about like a stud. What have the Giants given you the last couple of years of the draft? Make you say, oh, my God.
Nothing. And at least it's like the Jets are, even if the Jets go 2 and whatever it is, 15 next year, whatever, they're trying and they're getting they're drafting 2 quarterbacks in 4 years. They're making deals. They say, oh, we aren't that good. Why are we paying Jamal Adams? I'm not. Let's trade and get a pick. They do stuff like that. What do the Giants do? They say, we're not signing Odell Beckham to trade, and then they trade him. And do you think Dave Gettleman, would you say the Giants won the Beckham trade? I feel like at this point, they kind of did.
They did.
Because he didn't really turn out to be anything special when they got rid of him. Do you think Gettleman knew that when he traded him, or just did it because of the character issues and got lucky?
Yeah, they got
obviously.
Yeah, because Odell did not work out in Cleveland. That's more why they won the trade, because they did get a first round pick. They got a guy who plays a lot in Jabril Peppers, and they got assets. They just didn't utilize them correctly.
Yeah, and Gettleman got lucky on that. He didn't make that trade saying Beckham's not good. I can tell from he has no idea. He said he doesn't smile enough and he kicked the goal line. He's a distraction because it doesn't fit the Giant way. Which enough. And it's showing that they're going to continue the Giant way until it works again, which means the NFL evolves over time. We all know that. The game now compared to even the game in 2005 is very different.
Yes.
Very different. The 80s, very different. Of course, maybe in 30 years from now, the game will go back to what it was in 2006 and the Giants will be good again. But I doubt it. It's just going to happen until they sell the team. It reminds me so much of James Dolan and Isaiah Thomas running the Knicks.
Yep.
They refuse to admit they're wrong, and they just continue more of the same until I don't know what changed with the Knicks. Why do they decide to? How did the Knicks eventually become? Now I don't want to say good, but the Knicks are respectable now. Well, what happened? What was the turning point there?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out exactly what it was. I want to say it was probably the whole Kristaps thing, basically forced them to actually start thinking like outside the box.
Yeah, but this is like it's a complete joke. They have this fear for whatever reason of getting rid of somebody too early. It seems to be this thing that they have a fear of when it comes to coaches or quarterbacks. And like, I don't think they fully understand that that's not a big deal. They act like it's the worst thing in the world to get rid of a player prematurely. Like they have to be 100% certain before moving on. If they find out it's the wrong guy, they're like, oh, what's the harm in giving him more years? Well, the harm is years.
You're wasting time.
Have been wasted. They have been the worst team in the league since 2017. They had a lucky year in 2016, which you can look back at some of the games, and it's pretty. Even if it wasn't lucky, who cares? It's one good year. And before that, they sucked for 3 years too. I guarantee you can look back. They're the worst team in the league since 2012. They have to be.
Yeah, I think they're right up there. You know, like I'm looking and the Giant way you mentioned so much they seem to love here. 5 straight years double-digit losses. They are now tied with the Jets for the worst record in the league over that span. The Jets at least had 7-9 year in there. They had that year where Adam Gase went 6-2 down the stretch to at least make themselves look semi-respectable. And the Jets, I mean, they know what they are. They know that they have to rebuild and they are in the middle of doing it. We'll see if they succeed. But the Giants don't seem to realize that they can't do this the right way.
You're a Jet fan, so it's not infuriating for you, but pretend you're a Giant fan for a second. Isn't it infuriating that we are the worst team in the league? This is undisputable, the worst team in the league since 2017. Like literally record-wise, we are.
Yeah.
And probably the worst team in the league since 2012. And we've never even tried rebuilding.
No.
Isn't that infuriating?
Yeah, I think the whole turning point goes back to the whole situation back in I think it was 2017 when they decided we're going to pull the plug on Eli's streak, and I think the Giants fans take some blame this because everyone went into an uproar about, oh, you can't do this to Eli. The fans were sitting there screaming, oh, you can't do this. The players saying we go on where Eli during the sideline. The next day, like a week later, McAdoo's fired, Jerry Reese is fired, Gettleman comes in, doubles down on Eli, and then you start the whole cycle.
Which I've heard, I don't know how true this is, but I've heard when they were interviewing candidates at that point in time, they were down to, I believe, I could be wrong about this, but they were down to Gettleman and Louis Riddick, who we see all over the TV and the radio now. And Louis Riddick had said that they didn't hire him because he wanted to get rid of Eli Manning, move forward with the team, draft a quarterback, rebuild, and said, you guys need to rebuild. And Dave Gettleman went in there and said, no, we're going to draft a running back or, Barkley or a skill position, and we're going to win now with this team. And they ended up going, I don't know, 5-11 that year, I think.
Something like that.
Sounds about right. I mean, we know it was no better than 6-10. They haven't been, and I don't think it was 6. So it's been 5-11, and that's what the story has been since. But I think it goes back further than that. I think the issue is when, and I'll admit I was wrong at the time because I agreed with the move at the time, but I think this goes back to getting rid of Tom Coughlin and not getting rid of Jerry Reese when you did, because it created this cycle of head coach, then GM fired, then no head coach, and it's happening again now, where no one's on the same page. You need to let someone come in and actually choose their head coach, choose their quarterback, not say, this is our quarterback, this is our head coach. And they never did that. They did that when they brought in Gettleman, and even Gettleman, as much as I don't like the guy, it's not even his fault. He's just a yes man. He's just doing Mara's work for him. He's doing exactly what Mara says to do is what he's doing.
Yep. I have the records pulled up, by the way. I did go to Pro Football Reference here. Since the boat game, 3-13 in 2017, 5-11, you were correct, in 2018, 4-12 in 2019, 6-10 last year, 4-11 so far this year with 2 more games to go against Chicago and Washington. So the best case there is 6-11.
Yeah, I will guarantee a victory against Washington in the last week of the season. They love doing that and ruining their draft pick. Did the same thing when they could have got Chase Young. They decided to win that game. Um, this this is a lot bigger than a bad team. This is a bad team that has no signs of turning it around at all. It looks like they don't want to turn it around at all. It almost looks like they're losing on purpose because everyone, it's not just fans of the Giants or people who are passionate about the team. Everyone knows what they're doing is wrong. Everyone. They're the laughing stock of the league now. They've overtaken many teams who were worse than them at some point or another, like the Browns, more recently the Jets and Jaguars. They are the joke, the laughing stock of the league. It's not even close. Like Detroit is horrible. Detroit might be the least talented team in the league right now.
They play
But
hard.
you know Detroit's getting the first pick. You know they're picking somebody who's going to fix their team, the quarterback, whoever it may be. I'm not really familiar with the college game right now on who the top picks are, but you know Detroit's going to do that, and they're going to try to elevate themselves and rebuild the team. The Giants still haven't done that. It's going to be another 3 to 4 years of us Giant fans rooting for them to lose, so they'll realize. It's been like 6 years now of us rooting for them to lose.
Yeah, and I'm looking at right now, the thing also about mind about Joe Judge is how, like, when they lost to Tampa on Monday night, back first game after the bye, he came out, basically ripped the offense apart and said, like, this is unacceptable. The next day, Jason Garrett gets fired. Over the last 6 games, the New York Football Giants, these are their point totals. They had 10 against Tampa. They had 13 that game they won against the Eagles because Jalen Hurts couldn't do a damn thing. They had 21 against the Chargers. They had a 6 spot against the Cowboys. There's another 10 in there and then 10 today. So, I mean, they have averaged 11.6 points per game since the bye, which is.
And most of them are garbage time points, too. Like the Charger game, I think they had 2 garbage time touchdowns. Today they had 1 garbage time touchdown. It's all garbage time.
Yeah. It's all garbage time. The head coach is punting from positive territory because he's conservative as hell. And then he's trying to basically tack on these garbage time cuts down the way he can and say, see, we tried, we fought, we didn't give in at the end of the game. And then, it goes back to the same mentality back when he's forcing Daniel Jones to play the last minutes of the game against the Rams and they were getting blown out, even though Jones coming off concussion, saying, we compete for all 6 minutes. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's a complete joke. And it shows that this guy has no idea what he's talking about, what he's doing. He knows nothing about football. He was hired because he was a hard ass and he would yell and put the players in shape. This is not high school football. It's not going to work. These are professional athletes. You don't have good players, they're not going to play well. And on top of it all, you look back at a lot of this stuff that you hear, and now you see a lot of articles coming out about the past with the team. I saw one as recently as this past week that says that McAdoo was ran out of town because of his mistrust, I guess that's the word, his mistrust of Eli Manning, and begged the Giants to trade up and draft Patrick Mahomes. And they denied him and always had a sour attitude for him the rest of the year. And that's why when they were bad, he was gone. I've also read that numerous scouts in the Giants organization were begging them to not pick Saquon Barkley because they said, we can get a better running back later on in the first round if we make a trade here. You know who that running back is? Nick Chubb, who definitely is better than Saquon Barkley. It's not even a comparison. It wasn't even a comparison going into this season. Forget it after, like now. Now it's like a joke. This is the same thing over and over. It's John Mara refusing to admit his way is wrong, refusing to adapt to the modern NFL, refusing to incorporate analytics at all in their team, and thinking what worked in 2007 is going to work again. It's not going to work. And like I said, unless the NFL does a complete 180 in the next however many years, maybe in 30 years it'll work again, but it's not working now.
Yeah, and as far as the GS situation, we know Gelman is stepping down at the end of the year, basically. They're not going to fire him because he's a member of the family, and the Giants seem to have this mentality. Is every GM going back to 1979 has been a descendant from the George Young tree, because with George Young, Ernie Accorsi worked for him, Jerry Reese worked for Accorsi, Gettleman worked for the Giants for 15 years before he left Carolina and then came back. And right now you mentioned Kevin Abrams is the assistant GM, is the right now presumed leader in the clubhouse to be that new GM, which again, it's just they're living in their own vacuum where they're just talking themselves into thinking, oh, we have a great process, we have great results, and the results are not there. Simply put, they stink.
Yep. I said this from the start in 2017 or whenever it was when they hired Gettleman. I think it was I think it was before that year was over, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they fired Jerry Reese,
Fired Reese
after the Eli debacle, and then they brought Gelman in. I think it was like 3 weeks ago in the season.
Yeah, so I said it then, because any Giant fan would do. I said, all right, who's this Dave Gettleman guy? Who's our new general manager? I knew he was with the Panthers, but what's his history before that? Most people would say he's with the Panthers. What's the Super Bowl? That's great. We got a Super Bowl. Not they didn't win the Super Bowl, they made it, but we got a Super Bowl caliber GM. This is great. But hold on, for 13 years before that, he was the director of pro personnel for the Giants. He's essentially an assistant general manager. So we're just hiring the backup at this point, the assistant, the backup, and now we're doing it again. So nothing's changing. So essentially, in 2017, when we fired Jerry Reese, who was there for a while, and Reese's way worked at one point, right?
Yep.
We haven't changed. We have the same, in my point of view, we have the same general manager that we did. Because we're hiring the same tree, the same people, the same beliefs, the same Giant way. You know how people have that sign, commitment to excellence?
Yes.
The Giants is commitment to awfulness. They lose every chance they can.
Yeah, and the thing you mentioned here is like, even if John Mara is still living in his own little like vacuum bubble where he says, "Oh, I found Bill Belichick. He's going to be great in a couple of years," and like, I cautioned that. I don't think they understand. It's like, look right across the building. You can look what happened with the Jets. Their whole cycle of misery for about a decade started with the fact that they brought in John Idzik after they fired McCagnon, saddled Idzik with Rex. The two of them did not agree ever. They got fired together 2 years later, and they started the whole cycle where we mismatched coaches and GMs. And it took them until last year to get it right, where the GM picked his coach and had control over the whole thing. And now they're finally starting to at least begin to crawl in the right direction. The Giants have never done that, and doing this again,
and they won't.
You have either you're promoting from within, which means you could continue the same process, or Joe Judge is going to pick some expatriate to be his GM for him, which means Joe Judge has all the power, and then you're not accomplishing anything either. You're doing more of the same.
Yeah, so the Giants get one thing that the Jets didn't have, because you had mentioned how they went back and forth. The GM and coach will go back and forth disagreeing. The Giants don't have that. They're all in agreement, which is, I guess, is a good thing, but they're all in agreement on the wrong thing.
Yes.
They're all together. They're all yes men. They're all yes Mara, yes sir. But everything they do is wrong. Everything.
Yeah.
It stems back to way before Saquon Barkley, which was, I said it to many people that leading up to that draft, which is not even, a lot of people like to come on a podcast and, brag about something you called. Like, for example, when I called the Yankees, we're going to get Garrett Cole. That was a good one because there were no signs pointing to that at all. You had mentioned that when we said that, right?
Yep.
I said, if the Giants draft Saquon Barkley, it will be a disaster of the pick, and they will be awful for his entire tenure as a Giant. Now, that's that at the time, I thought that's a good prediction. That's not a good prediction. Everyone knows that. Anyone who knows anything about football knows if you pick a running back second overall, you're a fool. The only time it's ever worked out where someone picked a running back that high, and it didn't really work out, it just worked out, mostly, was Elliott. Because the Cowboys you knew, because Romo was hurt, you knew, like, all right, he's going to come back next year. We don't need a quarterback. If that was the case, and Eli was 6 years younger and was hurt, and that's why they were bad, sure, you can pick a running back, and that's the missing piece of the puzzle. They actually thought it was missing. The fact that they thought it was the missing piece to the puzzle, and since then have missed the playoffs 4 years in a row, going to be 5 years in a row, 18, 19, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yes, the fact that how is Dave Gettleman not fired? How is he allowed to step down?
Well, that's more the fact that they just don't want to embarrass him, which, I mean, it's fine. He's not getting the job. It's all that matters to me. It's like that. If he's going to, you want to stay engaged, not coming back, you want to just like,
to me, it's more of John Mara not admitting he made a mistake. That's why he's not firing him and letting him step down.
It's not the same. It's the same results to me. That's semantics. Doesn't matter to me. But as long as he's not in the job, that's fine. But the problem is then you're sort of limiting like you said, you're limiting your pool because you're sort of listening to the same circle of like, oh, we're not that far away. We have good talent. We got hurt. And then you're making excuses, not realizing your process is flawed.
Do you think out there, because I think the answer is yes, and to me this is even crazier. Do you think, because I'm not even going to point blame at Gettleman anymore. I'm not going to point blame at Judge anymore. I'm looking all of this as Mara. I mentioned before Tisch could be involved in this too. I don't know. I'm just saying Mara. I really mean ownership. But do you really think Mara looks at this team and says, we made the right calls, I think we got unlucky?
Yes, I think he does.
And then there's no hope until he sells the team. There really isn't.
Because I think right now you say, we had a lot of injuries this year. It's like we made a bad call with the offensive coordinator, and then like Daniel Jones got hurt, so we had no shot. So I think he's gonna say, you know what, like Joe Judge deserves another chance because he didn't have his coordinator, he didn't have the coordinator he wanted. His quarterback got hurt, all the linemen got hurt. Gallon whiffed on picks. He's just saying like, we get the right person who believes in Joe Judge's way, we'll fix it. That's what I think he's thinking right now.
I wish I can remember it. I can't. I was in that article that I read. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I know I can narrow it down a little bit. I know it was either Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, or Devonta Smith. I know the Giants were gonna get Smith, but one of those three that basically Jason Garrett said we need to not let someone else take these guys and trade up and get them. And I think they all look great so far. All three of those guys look fantastic. And it just seems like the guys that they're firing are the guys who are going against the Giant way, like Garrett and McAdoo. And it seems like those guys were right. And those guys knew what they were doing more than everybody else.
Well, Jason Garrett, to be fair, is a terrible offensive coordinator. He has no imagination whatsoever. So, I mean, he should not have been in his job to begin with. That was more of sounds like John Mara forced him on Jones, saying, hey, like, he worked for us for a while. He's a good.
Yeah, he was the backup quarterback. That's why he got the job, because he backed up, I believe, Kerry Collins back in the day.
Yeah, it's all in the family mentality is just so annoying with the Giants because, again, like, you're going down the path where you're just cycling through all these guys who are doing the same things, make the same mistakes. And you look at what's happened next year. They have $3.5 million in cap room. They're not going to do much of anything without making.
Oh, yeah. Forget that. They're in cap hell, too.
Yeah. You do that. You got to release some of your good players like Blake Martinez or James Bradbury if you really want to make some waves on the cap wise. And then even if you go here, you could take a look at the Russell Wilson situation. I know that's been the thing Giant fans are claiming to. Like, oh, Russell Wilson wants to come here. Ciara wants to come to New York. Even if she does, and Russell Wilson is sitting here and saying, like, why would I go waste the rest of my prime years with the Giants who can't get themselves right? They don't have an offensive line, which is my big issue in Seattle is. Like, why wouldn't I go to New Orleans and play for Sean Payton or go to Denver? They have more pro-ready setup here.
Yeah, I think it's still the right move for the Giants to trade their pick and the Bears pick for Wilson because you're right, it won't work. They'll still win 6 games tops, 7 if they're lucky. But the reason I think they should do it is because I don't trust the guys who are going to make these 2 picks. And the Bears won today, so let's just say I don't know if they're going to be there won't be 2 top 5 picks. They'll have 2 top 10 picks, definitely. Maybe if they're lucky, 2 top 7 picks. I don't trust either of those picks. I think they're going to whiff on both of them. I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Yeah, even to put the pick aside, obviously, like you go get Russell Wilson, make your football team better. My question is, why would Russell Wilson want to come here?
No, he wouldn't. And I don't know if he has what's his trade clause. Does he have something like that?
Well, basically, these quarterbacks always are going to dictate where they go because they're going to say, like, I can restructure my contract to make your fit better. So, like, I'm not going to do it for this team. I'll do it for this team.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be a fool if you didn't go to New Orleans in this case. I mean, the Giants are 4-11. New Orleans, I think, will lose tomorrow night to Miami. Yeah. I don't know, though. They might win. So they'll be either 8-7 or 7-8, and they have a great defense. They're clearly just missing the quarterback. So isn't it kind of obvious that if you go there, it's a much better situation for you?
Or Denver, because Denver has all the weapons. They have a good line, a good defense. They just need the quarterback.
Yeah, I would do either one. I think I would never go play for the Giants. It seems like the worst place to go probably in the NFL. Besides the fact that they're horrible, the coach is completely inept, management's completely inept, ownership's completely inept. It's also like cold. Like think about that stuff too. Like I know Denver's cold too, but they're not inept.
No,
the Giants are the worst case scenario, and a lot of players care about that stuff. Would you rather play in sunny Florida or cold New Jersey?
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think also with the situation here with Joe Judge, and I think Daniel Jones here is just such a mess for them because obviously he has the neck injury. You don't know what his situation is. Like you can't pick up his 5th-year option with the neck uncertainty. So you're basically playing him out for a year. It's like, why the hell not? Because again, you're not really going anywhere. Give him a shot and just see what your situation looks like in 2023 with the draft. But again, Joe Judge, he runs that organization. He's got Mara brainwashed to think that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And until Mara realizes just throwing garbage cans not going to be enough to make your team win, you guys are screwed.
Yeah, Jones, like exactly what you just said, completely agree with everything. It's obvious that Jones is bad. He might be okay. And like people will point fingers around the league and say we can't get rid of him so soon because who knows what it'll turn out to be, like pointing fingers at someone like Ryan Tannehill. Like, maybe the Dolphins let him go too soon and he ended up being a pretty good quarterback. That's like a 2% chance that happens. I think that you're willing to take that chance if you're the Giants, that Jones can go somewhere like, let's say, New Orleans or Carolina or somewhere like that and turn out to be pretty good. But to your point though, I agree, and I mentioned earlier, there's no reason not to bring Jones back. You're not turning the season around in one off season. Or turning the team around in one off season. You literally don't have the financial space for it, and you also have people who don't know what football is running your team, so they're going to bring in players who are going to make them worse, not better. Because as the game evolves, they continue to move backwards. You see now all the time, now this year and last year, especially more than ever, teams going for 2 at the end of the game. Chicago did it in 1 this week. Last week, Baltimore did it, didn't work out. You see teams going for it on 4th down more. Who does that less than any team in the league? The New York Giants. Who's one of the worst teams in the league? The New York Giants. It goes hand in hand. They refuse to admit the times have changed.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to end here because obviously I was looking on Twitter here, some of his press conference remarks, and he apparently one of the things he opened with was that special teams gave the Giants good field position today. I'm like, if that's your headline, that's a major problem. And to me, I'm going to leave it with this. This is for John Mara, who we know watches the games. We've heard reports he's throwing trash cans in press boxes when he's upset with the team's performance. If you're losing these games 34-10, the Bears blow them out next week, Washington blows them out this week, how can you go to the Giant fan and say, this is the right guy? I know the quarterback is hurt, but you can't be completely non-competitive against bad teams.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I don't know how you could potentially sell that. I know the reason he's doing that is because he knows Joe Judge will not say no to him. He knows, I guess, Gettleman now, but Abrams next year, as we're led to believe, will do the same thing. So for John Mara, it's I can keep my way, keep my guys, and if anyone complains, I can just have a Ring of Honor ceremony at halftime and they'll forget all about it. Or give him a free medium Pepsi.
Yeah, that one I've said they're like, okay, he's really lost at the freaking medium soda. I'm like, what, that's Will Pon-esque, the medium soda.
I really think, I'm a New York sports fan, a Yankee fan, a Giant fan. I like the Rangers as well. I don't really know much about hockey. I happen to be a Laker fan, not a Knicks fan, but I do like the Knicks. I watch almost every Knicks game. I do root for them as well. But this is exactly the same as James Dolan with the Knicks, is it not?
It's getting worse.
Yeah, it's just like crazy. They're the laughing stock of the league. They've definitely I don't want to say, because I don't know enough about hockey to say this, but I want to say this anyway. And you can tell me if it's a team in hockey who's worse. But I really think the Giants right now, not talent-wise, but right now, are the most inept organization in all of sports.
Sports is a tough call because there are some dumpster
in football, definitely.
Yeah. It's them and Jacksonville fighting for the bottom.
Yeah. And football, in basketball, the Sacramento Kings have been bad as long as they've been alive, I think.
Yeah. They're pretty bad.
But I don't know, baseball, a lot of teams are pretty bad, sure. But I don't know. I really think they might be the most inept organization in sports.
Yeah, it's Giant fans. You guys are screwed. I'd say until.
One more thing I have to add, Mike. Do you know what the definition of insanity is?
Yeah, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Let's leave it at that.
Yep. We'll leave it there, and I will put it out there until they do the full back up the truck, blow it up. Everybody goes, not just Gettleman, the coach, the quarterback, and you start over. You're stuck in this loop of 5-win teams. You're trying to sell progress. Not enough is happening. Guys are underachieving. Guys are getting hurt. Expect another 5 years of this.
Yeah, it's not even like it's 7 or 8 wins where you can at least, around this time of year be like, hey, if we win 3 in a row to end the year, we have a shot at the playoffs. No, it's the season's over by Halloween, and then we get 2 wins at the end of the year to make it 5 wins.
Yeah. It's really bad. Nick, I want to thank you take the time to come on. I appreciate it. We'll have more fun later this week. We're going to talk about the premiere of the Book of Boba Fett on the Sky Guys at Pete Considori.
Yeah, I can't wait. Very excited for that. Question for you. Do we have any run times or no, not yet?
I do not have runtime yet, so we'll find out.
I'm thinking same as Mando, I would assume.
Yeah, those episodes usually about like 30 to 45 minutes, usually somewhere in that range.
Yeah, should be good. I'm very, very excited for the show.